Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Doc Side. I'm your host, Sir Doc. Today, I'm going to be demonstrating this Pathfinder flip mat for you. This is something that I picked up very recently from Amazon because actually, for the very first time in my life, I'm going to play the Dungeon Master in a D&D game, the Rick and Morty version of D&D, to be frank with that. And I don't have a lot of experience with Dungeons and Dragon, and I've never done a DM before, so this is totally new for me. I wanted something that was pretty entry level, something that was going to be simple to use, something that was going to be really portable. And because if I hate it, I'll never do it again. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on something that I'm not going to use. So I put a question out to some of my cohorts on Discord, and John was kind enough to respond back to say that he really likes this Pathfinder flip mat. Quick look on Amazon. I found two different types. I found the Pathfinder flip mat, the basic, and then I found the one that's bigger basic. And this bigger basic is actually about 45% larger than the basic size. So the dimensions on this one are 27 by 39 inches. It's pretty decent size. And in fact, that might even be bigger than what I really want to work with, especially when I'm not having done this before. I do like that it is double-sided. They used 1-inch squares on both sides, and one of the sides is kind of a dirt sandy background. The other side is more of a stone dungeon-esque type, if you will, to be able to use that. And the package itself is, it folds up into the size of a standard piece of 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So this is ideal for flipping into a folder or something. Again, portability was what they were thinking of when they designed this. When it arrived, it had some cellophane on it, but that was it. It wasn't boxed. It just looked like this. It actually had a little clip. So these things are made to be hanging up in stores on the little hooks. So pulling the cover off, this is all that's inside. So this is the mat. It folds up. This is paper. It's a really heavy duty poster board, I guess is what I would call it, coated front and back with a kind of a UV vinyl coating. I'm looking at this for the first time, and while I knew it was going to be a folding, I guess I wasn't really paying attention to how the creases of the folds would be, and are they going to lay flat or not, because that's very obnoxious. So you have to unfold this whole thing. This whole thing is bigger than my table that I have here, so I can't fold the whole thing out for you guys, but it actually does look like the more it folds out, the better it lays flat, but you're certainly going to have creases. You're not going to get rid of the creases in there. So I guess with that in mind, if you're going to be doing a lot of drawing on these things, running your pen over a crease may be problematic if you're really anal about your straight lines, or if you've got bubbles in it and it volcanoes up. Is it going to be tough keeping your minis in place? They're going to be trying to slide all over the board. That's a valid question. Also, a valid question is, how well is this thing going to hold up when you're folding, unfolding, folding, unfolding multiple times, particularly in these corners right here where the creases, all four creases come together. That I could see this vinyl coating just disintegrating very quickly, and the paper underneath starting to just shred. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the price point is cheap enough. This one, I want to say maybe it was $18.50 or so is what I paid on Amazon. So it's not super expensive. If I was a heavy user and I use this every couple months, I might be willing to throw down $18-20 every couple months to have a new mat. But there are certainly other options out there and different brands, and just depends on what your style was. This one worked for me. I didn't want to carry around a big tube. I wanted to have something that was extremely portable. Again, if I am not going to do DMing ever again, I may never pull this thing out again. So I didn't want to spend a ton of money for something I wasn't too certain of. So looking at how this is going to play, and you can see if I do this for you guys, you can see the glossiness. So I mean, this is very slick. It's super shiny, and What I really wanted to do with you was to test out the wipeability of this. Now, this board claims that it's good for wet marker, wet erase marker, dry erase marker, and permanent marker. That was yet another thing that I thought, I think that would be something that I would definitely be interested in, was using this for, in case you wanted some permanent marker, and maybe you had a game that was going to last, several sessions or something, and then you didn't want to be erasing it or worrying about them getting removed as your hand brushed against them. So those are valid things. So if you put a permanent marker on here, can it come off? And what happens if it's on there for like a week or 2 weeks at a time? Does it just become part of the part of the game plan? And then you can never use it again unless you're going to use it for that particular adventure with those particular buildings or what have you on it. So what I want to do is, I've got 3 markers here. I've got a wet erase, I've got a permanent, and I've got the dry erase marker. And we're going to give this a shot. We're going to draw on these. I'm going to try to wipe them off in real time. I'm not going to wait for an hour and let them dry and then come back to the camera. We're just going to do this all in one shot here, so that it's real time and you can see for yourself what's happening with that. So the first thing, we'll start off with wet erase, and this is Vis-a-Vis. These guys have been around for a million years, and I'm just going to write wet erase. Okay, so wet erase, that's the wet erase marker. Pretty obvious. The dry erase, this is a dollar store buy. Doesn't even have a brand on it unless the brand is ink. But bought this one because it says it has a fine point, which is what I wanted to draw with. So we're going to mark this one dry erase. And the immediate thing is, I see the dry erase is a lot more dim. Like it's not as hardy as the wet erase. The wet erase is much more easily viewable, and the dry erase is very, it's almost transparent, where the wet erase is very opaque with that. And then, jumping in this, your classic Sharpie here for permanent, and we'll write that up there. All right. It's 3 types of markers. Let's see how well they all wipe off. And I'm just going to this is just a basic paper napkin like you'd get at a pub or a restaurant. And I'm using this because I will be playing at a pub for this D&D game. This is what I'm going to have at hand. And this is what most of us who are doing it out, in a public space are going to have access to. We're not going to bring our cloths or our paper towels with us, and you may not even have your cleaning supplies. You may, but you may not. And if this being paper, I don't recommend putting anything liquid on it. If it soaks to the edges, it's laminated on the top and the bottom, but it's not laminated on the side. If you were to get this thing wet or dump something on it, it would totally separate very quickly, as the water would just soak in between the layers. So definitely want to avoid putting anything liquid on this. So just again, plain paper napkin, and I'm just going to do a quick wipe, one wipe across, see what happens. So as expected, that dry erase came right off. No issue whatsoever. And I wasn't pushing very hard. It just completely wiped off, which means that anytime somebody touches the board on accident or rolls their dice and then goes to pick them back up, chances are they're removing your lines that you just drew if you're using the dry erase marker. The wet erase marker, it stayed there, but it did blur a little bit. And I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I can see it in person that it's not, the lines aren't quite as crisp as they were, whereas the permanent marker, there's no change to that. And that's to be expected. That's what I was expecting to see. So what if I just work a little bit more on it? And I don't have to press very hard, but yeah, it didn't take much effort, but that wet erase came off really easily as well. Piece of cake, no problem. Let's try the same thing with the permanent and see how that does. So I'm not pushing very hard with it. Holy cow. So interesting. Look at that. I wasn't using hardly any pressure, just kind of the back and forth motion, and that came off much better than I didn't think it would touch it, to be honest with you. I thought I'd have to show you my ancient Chinese secret to remove this from here, but I am impressed. So if that came off like that, what happens if I actually put a little elbow grease in it? You do have to scrub it pretty hard, but it's not brutal. But look at that. It totally came off. It's all gone. There's like no residue left. It's not smudged at all. That actually blows my mind a bit. I did not expect that. I totally thought that even though it said Sharpie would work or permanent marker would work, that you'd really have to struggle to get it off. But just using a dry napkin was able to get that Sharpie off, and I didn't feel I had to do that much to do it. So kudos on these guys for making a product that actually does what they say is going to do. The ancient Chinese secret I was going to show you, which I assumed I was going to have to do, was if you take a permanent marker and you have something there on that, and it doesn't wipe off, very easy. One way to get it off there, and some of you may know, but to me, I found this about 6 months ago. You can take a dry erase marker, run it over where you drew with a permanent marker, and it comes off easy peasy. And just as a demonstration there, so again, that was permanent marker. I can scrub this a bit. Doesn't do much. It's all still there. But watch what happens. I take this dry erase marker and I just go over it with what I drew there. Now watch this. So there's a little bit of residue left where I didn't cover the whole thing with a dry erase marker. This is where instead of a fine tip, you'd want a chunky dry erase marker. But essentially, any place that I go over, it's like there's a chemical reaction that happens and it just comes off. I mean, you can almost blow it off. It comes off so easy. So that's really cool. That was my secret of getting rid of a permanent marker, which I totally thought I was going to have to do. And it's awesome that on the back of this instruction sheet, it tells you the same thing. It says removing permanent ink is easy. Simply trace over any permanent mark with a dry erase marker, wait 10 seconds, then wipe off both marks with a dry cloth or paper towel. Yeah, and it comes off very easy when you do it that way. There's no elbow grease involved with that. So anyways, thanks for spending your time with me to show this off. I hope it was informative. And if you're looking for a battle mat that for your next gaming session, I recommend definitely checking this out. Again, the price point was inexpensive. If you want the basic model, it wasn't a whole lot less expensive, but it was less expensive, and it was a smaller size, which may totally work for my purposes, but I went with a bigger size just because. So anyways, thanks again, folks. Until we see you again, have a good one.